Hey guys, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Dunns. Today we're studying Hebrews chapter 11. Let's get started.
Okay, so after a few days of pretty deep reading in the book of Hebrews, I find that most people's favorite chapter of the whole book is right here because of all the stuff we can't understand or is hard to understand prior to this stuff is stuff we know because we know a lot of these stories. So in chapter number 11, this is called the Hall of Faith. So about 18 different times in this one chapter, it's going to mention somebody's name and it's going to say that by faith they did something. Now, what does it mean to be by faith? Well, in the Bible, faith is the confidence to move ahead without having visible proof based not on what we see, but on who we know. I like that. Now, to get into all of this book, to understand this chapter, we have to tie it into the chapter before it. So the end of chapter number 10 said this in verse number 38, "Now the just shall live by faith." So what chapter 11 is, this is a historical record, a historical tour through some of the most famous people in the Bible and how they acted in faith. Now, John just read this, and John, what did you like about this chapter?
So I like some of these people's stories and how they had faith. Like Moses, he parted the Red Seas. He chose to suffer with God's people instead of being called Pharaoh's daughter's son, and that's cool about Moses. And then Abraham, he's cool because he was willing to sacrifice his son for God. And then David, he's cool because he killed Goliath.
He's cool because he killed Goliath. You think maybe as you're reading through all of these things that they thought one day John is going to call me cool. You know, I don't know. Whenever we read through this story, what we're finding is that spiritual success for people doesn't bypass suffering. So when we're reading stories about Noah and Abel and Abraham, Moses, David, all these folks suffered. I mean, these are good stories, but they weren't easy stories and they weren't easy lives. See, these people, they weren't the first ones to travel the faithful road, and neither are we. And so there are always going to be some bumps along the road, but what it keeps coming back to, these people are known for how they walked with God. Now, did they mess up? Yes. Will we mess up? Yes. Have we messed up? Probably a bunch. But you know what they're remembered for? They're remembered for how they trusted God. I like that about this story. I like how when you talk about Abel, when the Bible talks about Abel in the story, it says he offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. And what that means is that when Abel brought his offering, he brought what God told him to. So he was worshiping God on God's terms, not on his own terms like Cain did. But what I like most about Abel is it says that though he being dead, he still speaks. Let me ask you this. Would you want your life to matter? Because I would want mine to matter. And one day, whenever I'm in heaven, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if one day when we're all in heaven and maybe there's still people living in this world around, what if our lives are still able to make a difference? That even though we're dead, the life we live still speaks. I like that. And then when you start reading through the rest of these stories, it gets to people like Rahab. Rahab was a lady living in Jericho. She wasn't part of God's people, but she hid the spies and she acknowledged that God was the one true God. And you know what God did for her? He did for her the same thing he did for me. He took somebody on the outside and he made them part of the inside team. So he brought Rahab out of Jericho and made her part of his family. He brought me out of sin and he made me part of his family. I like that. You know, some of these people conquered. Some of these people perished. They died. But you know what they all did? They all lived by faith. John, as you think about this chapter, who are the most famous ones in this chapter to you? Who sticks out the most?
Probably Moses and David.
Moses and David, okay.
And
Abraham, okay. And so all of those guys live lives where they found out that eventually that the meaning of life was to choose a course of action, not based on what they saw, but based on who they know. And by the way, you can do the same thing too. Why don't we live this week where we're living by, not by sight, but we're living by trusting God. What His Word says, where He leads, what He wants, that's what we want to do, because we too want to live by faith. Hope you have a great day. Keep reading. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.